sure the children will have a good time. They're in good hands. And I hope you also have a good time. Our host and hostess, they had a request for a certain topic, and I got inspired to speak about something else besides their requested topic. Specifically related to Lord Ramachandra. In just Sunday, we'll be observing Ram Navami, Ramachandra's appearance. So this is the topic I wanted to touch on has to do with some of the mysteries of Lord Ramachandra's pastimes. There's some elements within his pastimes that are very clear, and some that are very deep and mysterious. So I wanted to touch on a few of those. The starting point, there are some prayers to Lord Ramachandra that are found in the 5th canto. This whole Leela of Lord Ram is in the 9th canto Bhagavatam, because in the 9th canto Bhagavatam there's primarily lineages of kings descending from the Surya dynasty, the Sun dynasty, and then after that a lineage of kings from the Chandra dynasty, the Moon dynasty. And when it gets to Krishna, Maharaj Parikshit can't help himself. He wants to hear all about Krishna, which leads into the 10th canto. Technology is great when it works. Now it's working again. So in the 5th canto, there's some prayers by Hanuman, because what the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is doing, a major contribution of the 5th canto Bhagavatam, is presenting Vedic cosmology, the structure of the universe. And in one of the mysterious sections of that is describing Jambudvip. And Jambudvip has various varshas or sectors. And one of those sectors or varshas of Jambudvip is Kim Purusha Varsha. And Kim Purusha Varsha is where Hanuman resides. As you know, after Ram ruled for 60,000 years, during Treta Yuga, that's a long time. And he, when he returned back to the spiritual Vaikuntha realm of Ayodhya, he left behind Hanuman. He took everybody but Hanuman. And Hanuman is happy just being in service to Ram wherever he is. He's eternally situated in Ram's service. Even in Ayodhya, we had this interesting discussion in Brihat Bhagavatamrita, which is a very fascinating literature describing Srimad Bhagavatam by Sanatan Goswami. When Gopakumar visits Vaikuntha and he visits Ayodhya within the Vaikuntha realm, Hanuman is there. And in the Bhagavatam, it describes that Hanuman remains in Kim Purusha Varsha, so I guess he can expand himself. So he offers prayers that are recorded in the Bhagavatam, honoring his worshipable, adorable master, Lord Ramachandra. So the last two evenings we covered those 8 verses from Canto 5, and I'm going to touch on them. They inspired something very much about Lord Ram, and of course Sita, and Lakshman, Bharata and Shatrughna, and Hanuman. The verses I'm going to refer you to speak of 2 purposes, of course, whenever Krishna appears. Whenever Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, there's 3 main reasons whenever he appears in this world. And many of you know those verses. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. 3 purposes. He gives protection to the devotees. He admonishes or puts to the side the duskritis, and he reestablishes dharma. So in Hanuman's verses, because he intimately knows Krishna, knows Lord Ramachandra. One who serves as Hanuman serves knows all about his master. He mentions 2 purposes. Here's one of his prayers. It was ordained that Ravana, chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, but also, and I underlined, to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life or centered around one's wife is the cause of many miseries. He is the self-sufficient, Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for him. Therefore, why else could he be subjected to tribulations by the kidnapping of Mother Sita? So, 2 purposes. Kill Ravana. In the 7th canto, Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami explains, and Prabhupada elaborates, there are lessons of life that are very, very clear, and our acharyas help us to understand if they're not so clear. Lessons of life, how one should live a quality life. Live according to principles of Dharma. When Hanuman is making the introduction between Sugriva and Lord Ramachandra, later in the Ramayana, because he was Sugriva's assistant, his chief minister, and the chief minister was sent by Sugriva, go see who are those 2 with a woman carrying bow and arrows and swords, but dressed as mendicants. Maybe it's a Rakshasa trick. Go use your skills. So Hanuman had been given this benediction, many benedictions, but one of them by the Devas. He could assume different forms. So he assumed a form, he disguised himself also as a Brahmana and went to do his intelligence work, his spy work on behalf of Sugriva. But as soon as he saw Lord Ramachandra and they began speaking, he could understand immediately because he's a pure devotee. This is the Supreme Lord. No need for disguise anymore. So he opened his heart and shared everything. And said, I know exactly where you're looking for Sugriva, I know where he is. Let's go. So when Hanuman, who knows now both Ram and Sugriva, he's introducing the 2. This is Valmiki Ramayan. He introduces, this is Sugriva. who is Virya Dridha, very, very powerful in war, because he's very determined to be victorious. And here's Ram, who's Satya Dridha, very determined to abide by truth. And both are victorious in their conquests and battle, and you'll be a great team working together. You can help one another. This is Hanuman's understanding the persons who he's serving because of his intimacy. So he knows that, of course, Lord Ramachandra is none other than the personality of Godhead who descended in this world to kill Ravana, because he came in the human form for this reason, but he also is showing this other. Too much attachment to the opposite sex results in many miseries. So here's a similar verse spoken by Shukadeva Goswami in the 9th canto, chapter 10, where he is stating, Shukadeva, when Ramachandra entered the forest, and Lakshmana was also absent, the worst of the Rakshasas, Ravana, kidnapped Sita Devi, the daughter of the king of Videha, just as a tiger sees his unprotected sheep when the shepherd is absent. Then Lord Ramachandra wandered in the forest with his brother Lakshmana as if very much distressed due to separation from his wife. Thus, he showed by his personal example the condition of a person attached to women. Now, some of you are married. And there's no success in marriage if you're not attached to the person you're married to. It'll be a disaster. But too much attached on the material platform of being the enjoyer of the object of the senses, whether it's woman to man or man to woman, it's an obstacle for spiritual progress, and conversely, it invites difficulty or misery, according to what Hanuman has to say. Now, Shukadeva Goswami is Goswami. He's even before he was born, he was Brahman realized. He had no material attraction whatsoever. And then when he was born, he was walking along the street, and at 16, clothed by the four directions, naked entirely. But the ladies that were bathing in the lake nearby, they didn't bother to cover themselves because they could understand just by seeing this 16-year-old boy, he's in another plane. But when Vyasadeva came by, immediately they got their garments and covered themselves because he's a householder. So householders make distinctions that persons like Shukadeva Goswami isn't going to make. He's not averse to persons who are living dutifully, responsibly in household life, but he understands too much attachment. So one of the two great authorities are saying one of the principal reasons of Ram's appearance, of those two purposes, one is obvious, kill Ravana. Another is not so obvious, but stated by our authorities. In this painting, it's a B.G. Sharma painting. Of course, there's Ravana fighting with Jatayu. Here's Sita throwing down her ornaments as she's passing over Rishamukh mountain, so that later Ram can know which direction she had gone in and confirm, and have his heart moved by seeing the cloth, opening the cloth and seeing the ornaments, and his deep sorrow considering the difficulty that Sita was in, and his feelings of separation from her. So there's worldly and there's otherworldly experiences or messages or churning of spiritual emotion, as well as giving us practical lessons of life. So let's discuss a little bit about Sita. There's different versions of Ramayana. And the Valmiki Ramayana depicts like this, in a place where Janak was planning to perform a Vedic sacrifice, as was the custom. He was plowing the field personally, and as he was plowing the field, from the earth came a young girl, here pictured in a lotus. So he accepted the child as his daughter, brought the child to his wife, that let us accept this as the plan of the Supreme Lord. We'll call her Sita because Sita means the furrow of the plow. That's how she appeared. And here's the birthplace, Sita Marhi, birthplace of Srimati Devi, Sita Devi. In another one of the Ramayanas, and I wanted to, at the end of this presentation, there's a number of images from a whole bunch of places in Southeast Asia, different countries. This one is from Bangkok, in a Buddhist temple called the Golden Buddha Temple. They have murals of Sita, Ram, and Lakshman and Hanuman pastimes. Ramayana pastimes in a Buddhist temple in Bangkok. So here is Janak plowing, and here's an urn, and inside the urn there's Sita, and here's a whole procession as they're carrying Sita in this urn, carried by the assistants of the king back to his palace. And the palace of King Janak, this may not be what it looked like during his time, but this is the present time. A nice traditional style for that area of architecture. So, who is Sita? She appeared out of the earth. Valmiki Ramayana, we're going to spend a little bit of time discussing. Valmiki Ramayana gives this biographical sketch of Ravana, and one of the personalities who Ravana wanted to accost and violate was Vedavati. So one time, and as Ravana, having defeated his brother Kuvera and thus gained the Pushpaka Vimana, was traveling all over wherever he wanted to go, through the universe. And as he was passing over one mountain, he saw deep in the forest a solitary woman who looked very beautiful, and that was all Ravana needed. So he came down with his Pushpaka Vimana and saw the beauty of this celestial woman. And he didn't waste any time. He started speaking, lusty, aggressive kind of words to her, saying, "Who are you? And you're so beautiful, and you're thin-waisted, and woo, woo, woo. Tell me about yourself. I'm very attracted to you." You're pretty direct, not subtle at all. So she spoke as follows. "My father was the righteous Brahmana named Kushadvaja. He was the son of Brihaspati, and he was Brihaspati's equal in intellect." This is straight from Valmiki Ramayana. "I am his daughter, born from that great personality who is engaged in Vedic recitation as an incarnation of Vedic speech. I am known as Vedavati." So he gave his daughter this name because she had that qualification, as did he, Vedavati. As I grew and matured, various rishis and demigods and Gandharvas and all types of people. They approached my father for my hand in marriage. And my father declined all of them because he said she should only marry Narayana. She is the equivalent of the goddess of fortune. And they were very upset. So one of those Daityas named Shambhu became very angered. And in the dead of night, when my father was asleep, he came and killed my father. Then my mother, who was terribly distressed at the loss of her good husband, she entered into the funeral pyre of my father, Kushadwaja, son of Brahaspati. So I was then left alone. But knowing the will of my father, that I should only marry Narayana, I've come here to the forest to engage in severe austerities with one mission, that during this lifetime, or if it takes multiple lifetimes, I'll only have one husband, Lord Narayana. Ravana, I know all about you. Because of my austerities, I know that I know what your intentions are. You just please leave before it gets difficult for you. And this isn't printed properly. Oh, it's on the back side. Okay. Ravana couldn't control himself. He said, you're very arrogant and very foolish. You're meant for me to enjoy. And he reached and grabbed her hair and was ready to drag her and do his dirty thing. She immediately reached her hand, cut her hair with her hand, and said, "You wicked person, now that I've been touched by you, I'm going to give up my body. But I tell you, with all the... I could easily destroy you with my austerities, but I won't waste my time in this way." Since I am innocent and without a protector, and I have been violated, I shall be born again for your destruction. She entered into... like Sita, she sat down in a fire, in a trance of meditation. Her body burst into flames, and she left her body. So that narrator that's just giving this history, truly it is not possible for a woman to kill anyone, least of all you, evil Rakshasa. When her body burst into flames, flowers fell from the sky, and the woman called Vedavati, who lived long ago during Satya Yuga, appeared in Treta Yuga to accomplish the destruction of that Rakshasa Ravana. Since she was born of a furrow, Sita, men always called her Sita. So Sita is none other than Vedavati. Then further, there's a number of wicked activities that Ravana did. One of them was a whole bunch of married ladies. He just gathered them all up and was ready to take them on his Pushpaka Vimana back to Ayodhya. Back to Lanka. And they cursed him in this way. Because you have violated women, then woman will be the cause of your destruction. So, not only Ram was put into difficulty because of his attachment, but what to speak of Ravan. So by the details of intrigue from Kaikeyi and company, Ram, Lakshman and Sita entered into the forest for 14 years without becoming the king, but instead living as mendicants. But Sita was very happy. She was very happy. She had an attraction for nature. She said to Ram, "This is very nice. You know how much I like, of all the places in Ayodhya, I like the garden. I would spend so much time, and now I would say, wouldn't it be very nice if one day we can just be out of city life and be in the forest together, just see all these beautiful flowers and see the different types of birds and listen to their singing and the trees, and this is lovely. This is just what I've desired." Providential arrangement. The cuckoos and the swans and the cranes and the peacocks and the various vegetation. So Sita was very happy. And there was austerities, as we see they're walking barefoot in the forest, not easy. Delicate lady that had all the comforts of palace life with King Janak. But she was very happy. And Ram was very happy. And serving them both, Lakshman was very happy. Then, as the years were passing, this famous event where, from the cottage where they were seated, Sita saw this golden deer. Of course, we know who the golden deer was. But she said to Ram, "See that beautiful deer, see how his colors are changing and dancing and standing and looking at us and then running like deer will do and then stopping and looking at us. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have that deer and bring the deer back to the gardens in Ayodhya and enjoy together? Ram, can you get the deer for me?" And we know Lakshman said, "No way, this is a trick. Whoever saw a deer like that, that's not a deer, that's a Rakshasa. Don't trust it." Ram said, "Even if it's a Rakshasa, my sharp arrows I can easily kill. I'll go. You stay here and guard Sita." And so, against the advice of Lakshman, this apparent mistake of Lord Ramachandra, he went to go fetch the deer. Now it was a little story, Prabhupada story. Many years ago, there was some gentleman in Hyderabad area named Mr. Reddy. Believe it or not, a name in Andhra, Mr. Reddy. And he had donated some land in downtown, in the heart of Hyderabad, for Prabhupada to build a temple on. So I didn't know anything about Hyderabad, but a group of us, we were attending a Mayapur Vrindavan festival, and Prabhupada arranged for 100 devotees to get on a train from Calcutta to Hyderabad and attend a week-long Pandal festival program in Hyderabad. And it was very interesting. We didn't have a place to stay except this land that's right in the middle of the city. Now it's more built up than it was at that time. But there was no building. So what did we do? We slept on the ground. What to be used for toilets? You know what people do when they go camping. That's what we did for toilets. You know, little things going around a hole in the ground, and that's what we used for toilets. And for bathing, it's just buckets and bucket showers on the right in the middle of the city. 100 of us, men and women, men over here, women over there, and bucket showers every morning. It got pretty muddy by the end of a week. And then we have a morning program, and then we have breakfast, and then we go on Harinam and pass out flyers to invite the people of the city of Hyderabad to come to the evening Pandal program at the university nearby. And then each day there was some life member that invited 100 devotees to come to their place for lunch. So one day was at Mr. Reddy's place. And Mr. Reddy's place was the biggest. Big land, lots of landscaping, nice trees, nice big house. And the 100 devotees were having their lunch just outside the house. And Prabhupada with the sannyasis and the Reddy family were in the house. So I had my lunch really quickly and went in the house. Just kind of snuck in and sat into a room that was about twice the size of this room, just like their sitting room in the house, where the lady, Mrs. Reddy, was with her lady friends, and Prabhupada was seated in a chair, and the sannyasis were at his feet, and Mrs. Reddy was saying, "Swamiji, why did Ram make a mistake?" What's that? He's omniscient. Certainly he knew that the golden deer was not a golden deer, that it was a Rakshasa. Why did Ram make a mistake? And he gave multiple answers. And each time he gave a different answer, she kept coming back to the same question. Yes, but Swamiji, why did he make a mistake? Well, it was a pastime. He was showing that he was entering into a mood of separation from Sita, because the science of rasa is when there's separation, then love increases. So he was entering into a pastime where his separation from Sita was allowing his love to increase. Yes, but Swamiji, he made a mistake. How much difficulty did Sita have to undergo? Swamiji, why did Ram make a mistake? So then he repeated in simple language what Shukadev Goswami just said in that previous verse. Ram was showing that no matter, even if you're the personality of Godhead, if you have too much association with a woman, you're going to have difficulty. But Swamiji, Prabhupada looked at the sannyasis who were laughing, and the sannyasis got it. Here she is giving Swamiji some difficulty. So that was one of the purposes for which Ram came, to teach this lesson. So, after Ram went chasing for the deer, we know what happened. Ravana came again in a disguise as a mendicant Brahmana. We see around the cottage is Lakshman Rekha, and he spoke to her very much like he spoke to Vedavati, pretty direct and pretty, like shocking. How would a mendicant Brahmana speak like this to a woman? But she was charitable, and she tried to give him some alms, and naturally he snatched her hand and carried her off, and Jatayu tried to protect. Beautiful narration of Jatayu's mood of devotion for Ram. But there's Sita looking a little terrified. Ravana, 10-headed Ravana, fighting with Jatayu. Jatayu is so big, just look at how big he is compared to a donkey. But Ravan cut off his wings, and Jatayu fell to the ground, and Ravana made his way back to Lanka. But one of his curses, which was another one of the curses, because when he went to do battle with his brother Kuvera, he met the wife of one of Kuvera's sons, Nala Kuvera and Manigriva. And in the case of Nala Kuvera's wife, he didn't just attempt to cause her harm, he molested her. And then when that dirty business was over, the wife of Nala Kuvera went and crying, told her husband what happened. So in a chivalrous manner, he took up battle with Ravana and was killed. But before he departed his body, he said, if you ever touch another woman against her will, you will immediately die. So Ravana considered, well, sometimes these curses of great personalities, they come true, so I better not violate. So he didn't violate Sita, although that's what he wanted to do, but he was tormenting her like anything, regularly. Placed her in a special place in the Ashoka garden, and tempted her, and tried to woo her, and promised her, relentless. And Sita, even intimidated with sword in hand, she spoke very strongly, and so strongly, Ravana decided he wanted to kill her. But as he was drawing his sword to kill her, Mandodari checked him. His dear, beloved, chaste wife, Mandodari. So he left. Then instructed the Rakshasis that were guarding Sita to break her will. Do whatever you have to do day and night. Don't let her sleep. Treat her terribly. Torture. So that she'll yield to me. That was their instruction. Sita was in great distress. But one, unlike all the other Rakshasis, was Trijata. And Trijata came in confidence when the others were not paying attention, and shared with Sita about a dream that she had. That in her dream, Ram had come in the celestial chariot, mounted with thousands of horses, coursing through the air, wearing white garments, white garlands, all ablaze with splendor. And then along came Ravana. Ravana was robed in black with a red garland and sitting in a chariot drawn by asses. So, take heart, Ram soon will come. He'll redeem you. Please remain peaceful. Please remain passive. Ram will come. Surely he will come. So, very difficult circumstance, but certain people then were trying to help. Then Vanaras and Ram and Lakshman and the horde of monkey soldiers came crossing Lanka by the bridge, making, according to the message of Bhagavatam, they went everywhere, like swarming all over the whole of Lanka. And Ravana then made a plan. He made a plan to had a sorcerer, magician fellow. His name was Vidyujiva. So he told his Vidyujiva to create a mystical head that looked just like Ram's head, and make a mystical bow that looks just like Ram's bow, and come with me, we're going to tell Sita a lie. That in the middle of the night, Sita, see this head, see the bow of Ram, you recognize the bow, you recognize the feature of his head. He's dead. In the middle of the night, when everyone was asleep, we went out and killed everybody, and Hanuman's dead, and all the Vanaras are dead, and battle's over. And you're so stubbornly keeping shelter of Ram. but he's dead. Now just surrender to me. And Sita wailed and cried, profuse tears. And in her words, she wasn't so much thinking about herself. She was thinking about Kaushalya and the other queens that have so much affection. How will they take this news? What is the use of my life? I should just throw myself on the... She covered her body with this mystical head. And I'll just give up my life and go serve my husband wherever he has gone. Just as this dialogue was going on, the battle was raging and Ravana had to leave, so he left in the middle. And who can imagine what the condition of Sita was after all this time of torment and torture and difficulty? But the wife of Vibhishan came very compassionately and told Ram the truth. Ram is still alive. Ravana is a big liar. And the army of Ram will be victorious. You just remain patient. Ram will redeem you. And she got so much courage and embraced Sarama and gave her heart to her, wife of Vibhishan, because Vibhishan and his good wife were just unlike everybody else there. And then along came Hanuman, because he had been searching for Sita, and she was not sure, was this another trick? So in various expert ways of speech, Hanuman just began singing the glories of Ram, and that gladdened Sita's heart, but she was still not sure. So this signet ring that Ram had given to Hanuman to prove to Sita, knowing that Hanuman is likely to be the one that would find her, show her this ring and you'll know that you're my messenger. So Sita felt greatly relieved. Now one other verse spoken by Hanuman in this section from 5th canto. Since Lord Ramachandra is the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, he is not attached to anything in this material world. He is the most beloved supersoul of all self-realized souls, and he is their very intimate friend. He is full of all opulences, therefore he could not possibly have suffered because of separation from his wife, nor could he have given up his wife and Lakshmana, his younger brother. To give up either would have been absolutely impossible. So there's the worldly lesson, there's the transcendental lesson of love and separation, and now here's yet another lesson. And that is, it's a Maya Sita that was taken from Ram. So now we have yet another mystery, Sita's trial by fire. So the Valmiki Ramayana has a slightly different variation on the theme of Sita's trial by fire. In Valmiki Ramayana, Sita actually entered into fire and came out unscathed. But there are other versions of Ramayana, and I'll mention some of them, that speak differently. Now, these are the ones I'm going to speak about are the authorized versions. And there's others that aren't. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in this 9th canto, chapter 10, Shukadeva Goswami says to Maharaj Parikshit, I'm going to speak about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, which you've heard so many times. So I'll only speak the essence, but I'll only speak from the authorized versions. Which means even 5,000 years ago, How many versions were there? Many, some of which were authorized, some of which were not. And some time has passed, and now there's so many scholars and people that want a name for themselves and write something or write some songs or sing something, and it depends on where you grew up, what you're going to hear. Unless you're very, very careful and discriminating, and you hear from disciplic succession, and you hear from authorities in disciplic succession that these are authorized versions. So one of those authorized versions is called Adhyatma Ramayana from Brahmanda Purana. And our acharyas make reference to this Adhyatma Purana, Adhyatma Ramayana. It's just a section within the Brahmanda Purana. And in that section, it's very interesting, because I had to learn about this after some time, because I'm familiar with Valmiki Ramayana. Prabhupada was particularly inclined to the Valmiki Ramayana. It's totally authorized, totally authentic. Not only is it authorized and authentic, he directly experienced the pastimes of Ram, even ones that he wasn't around there for. By the benediction of Lord Rama, he actually entered into the pastimes and describes them as if you're there, knowing the moods of the people, the voice intonation of the people, the hearts of the people. You're better than a movie or a live video of Ram's pastimes. You enter into the hearts of the personalities by the power given to Valmiki. Very, very special. But this Adhyatma Ramayana describes that when, before this event with the Maricha and the deer, Ram spoke as follows. This is a translation. Listen, my darling, who have been staunch in the holy vow of fidelity to me and are so virtuous in conduct. I'm going to act a lovely human pastime. Abide in fire until I've completed the destruction of the demons. And Ram gave detail about what his plan was. And being the obedient, transcendental consort of Lord Ram, immediately she stood with folded hands and entered into fire. And as she entered into fire, she left behind a shadow Sita. Shadow, Abhas. The internal potency has subpotencies. And one of those subpotencies is Maya. So Yoga Maya or Atma Maya has subpotencies, and one of them is Mahamaya. That's just a reflection, Abhas, a reflection of the internal potency. So, a nice example of this, sorry to go way over here, but just from scripture. When it comes time for creation, because according to the Vedic picture, everything is in cycles. Nothing is new and original. Everything moves in cycles. So, during the time of cosmic annihilation, which is of equal duration of time as cosmic manifestation, it becomes time for creation once again. So, Mahavishnu is contemplating a desire, a compassionate desire for living entities, all the samasti, all the living entities in all of creation are within his body. And he desires that they can experience the fullness of happiness, but they're in this deep sleep state. He just desires that. So his internal potency, named Rama Devi, she knows his desire, just as Sita knows Ram's desire. He doesn't even have to say it. He desires, and she arranges for the all those living entities to be transferred by the glance of Mahavishnu to Chaya Devi, or the Abhas form of her. The Abhas form of her is her energy, or subpotency of her. Just like an object and the reflection of an object. The reflection of an object only exists because of the object and the reflecting surface. Then there's a reflection. So, Sita left behind, according to Adhyatma Ramayana, this Maya Sita, or a shadow Sita. And it's this shadow Sita that entered into the fire, and the real Sita came out from the fire. That's Adhyatma Ramayana. Now, in Ram Charita Manas by Tulsi, it follows very similarly. Then in Kurma Purana, we find this from our Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling in South India, he met Ramdas Vipra, who was lamenting the difficulty that Sita had to undergo, and that she had been kidnapped by that wicked demon Ravana. How can I carry on my life knowing that Sita is in that difficulty? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, no, it's not possible. A demon cannot touch the internal potency of the Lord. It's not possible. A Maya Sita only was taken. So stop your fasting. He was going to fast till death. Break your fast. Come right now. Let's sit down and have your meal. So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued travel and went all the way to Rameshwaram. And in a temple in Rameshwaram, he was given a copy of Kurma Purana that said exactly what he had told the Brahmana. Here's what Kurma Purana says. As soon as Ravana arrived before Sita, she disappeared. Then, just to cheat Ravana, she sent an illusory material form. When Ravana came to kidnap Mother Sita, she took shelter of the fire god, Agni. The fire god covered the body of Mother Sita, and in this way, she was protected from the hands of Ravana. The fire god Agni took away the real Sita and brought her to the place of Parvati. An illusory form of Mother Sita was then delivered to Ravana, and in this way Ravana was cheated. So, slight variations from these different authoritative sources, where Sita is entering into fire, and here we see Agni delivering the original Sita. This is a depiction from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So the original Sita was restored back to Ram, and the Maya Sita was the one that entered into the fire. Detail, but it's a mystery. Now, there's many mysteries. There's many mysteries in the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And how do we understand mysteries? Well, we require scripture to understand them, and we require qualified acharyas to explain even what scripture says. I'm going to end with one other mystery. You ready? Even after Sita had proved herself to be untouched or uncontaminated by the hand of Ravana, by the way, in the Adhyatma Ramayana, Ravana doesn't touch Sita. She's still in her cottage, and he takes the whole cottage with him. In Valmiki Ramayana, he grabs her hand and or her arm and drags her to the chariot, and off they go. Variations. But she proved her having not been contaminated by this entering into fire. So that when Ram would return to Ayodhya with Sita, no one could criticize, but lo and behold, someone still criticized. So there's a description given in Padma Purana of why that is so. And why that is so is during this Padma Purana, during the childhood of Sita, she was in the garden of Janak along with her sister, younger sister, Urmila, and her two cousin sisters, and they were sporting in a garden, have little children. And very interesting, there were two parrots in a tree singing a song, and they became fascinated by the song, and the song was the song of the Ramayana. And she was hearing, as a little girl, Padma Purana, that Sita would one day marry Ram, and he'd be a chivalrous person, and they'd go to Ayodhya, and they'd be banished to the forest, and so she wanted to know more. How did you learn all this? And he said, well, we were parents in the ashram of Valmiki, and he was reciting again and again, and Love and Kush reciting again and again. We're parents, we just repeated what we heard. And she wanted to know more. But we said, we can't tell more because we're only repeating what we heard. So Sita wasn't satisfied. She put them both in a cage. And they wailed very loudly. We're used to being free and traveling without constraint like this, and please set us free. So she decided, little girl, she would set the male parrot free and kept the female parrot in the cage. And the female parrot was pregnant. And she cried very loudly, I can't bear separation from my husband like this. You will also have to experience separation from your husband in pregnancy. She was cursed by the female parrot, and the female parrot died. Seeing the female parrot die in the cage, in a swoon of separation, the male parrot fell into a lake and drowned. According to Padma Purana, that very same male parrot that drowned became the fisherman, or washerman, the washerman that was criticizing Ram, and thus bringing about this difficulty for Ram. Mystery solved, right? How would we know these things if it weren't for these illustrious scriptures and commentary of our acharyas? Now, the end of this is a friend of mine, a devotee in South India, lives in Bangalore. He's an astrologer and a scholarly devotee. Has visited in Southeast Asia, and I didn't know this until he brought it to my attention, but the pastimes of Ram, obviously Vedic culture existed beyond the subcontinent of India. There's many evidences of this, but certainly a very prominent area is in Southeast Asia. Here's some Thai script from the latter half of the 19th century describing Ram's pastimes. In a temple in Indonesia, there's a whole enactment of Ramayana. In this case, this is Ram admonishing Marich. There's the horns of the disguised golden deer. This is a mural, again from this Buddhist temple in Bangkok, where Ram, very ancient temple, where Ram and Lakshman in a chariot, along with the Vanaras and others, are traveling across the stone bridge. Here's Sita, like floating in air. Traditional, local, indigenous artwork, glorifying the pastimes of Ramayana. Here's another place by the Prambanan temple, an actual temple in this city in Indonesia, where they have this whole pageant, detailed, elaborate pageant depicting the pastimes of Ramayana. This is obviously modern because all the lighting and spotlights and everything. But so much an integral part of the culture of Southeast Asia. Another place, another city in Java, Indonesia. And in Thai style, modern, whatever you call it, animated depiction of Ram's pastimes. They have a stamp in the Republic of Indonesia commemorating the pastimes of Ramayana. They have a Ramayana festival in Indonesia. And Bali, another depiction of pastimes of, this is apparently Hanuman crossing over the sea and having difficulty crossing the sea. I think I'll end with this. Even in China, the light can go on. Even in China, Vedic culture existed. Did you know that? A little story, and I'll end with this. My first visit to China was in 2010. And I went in the capacity of the chairman of the GBC. Now, there was no job description of what a chairman is supposed to do. No training of what a chairman is supposed to do. It's just like pushed into the pool and see if you swim. So I thought of, some persons who I look up to who had been chairman before, and one of them is Rabindra Swarup Prabhu. I just remember hearing him say, he's a PhD philosophy graduate from Temple University in Philadelphia, and just a scholarly person. So he was once visiting at Oxford University, helping them get the Oxford school set up, a Vaishnava school as affiliated with Oxford University. So while he was there, they were having a UK council, ISKCON UK council. So he was invited to attend, and he attended. And one of the attendees said, he shared this with me, that said, this is the first time the chairman of the GBC has come to a UK council meeting. And he was thinking, what? I just was in town and I came. But I get it means a lot to people that here's the chairman of the GBC. So I thought, maybe I should go some places where they don't get to see the chairman of the GBC. So I got a globe and was spinning the globe and thought, China. Because whatever the percentage is, I've heard different numbers, 1/3 or whatever it is of the world's population is in that place. And it's rising in importance. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is no longer with us. Giridhari Swami's health, the other GBC, was really bad, so he wasn't able to do his duties at that time. And the third person, he had been blacklisted from entering China. So maybe you should go there and just tell the Chinese devotees, you people are important. That's what I was thinking. So I went to China. And the first place I went to was Beijing. Never been to China before, so you go to the capital, right? So the devotee said, would you like to go see the sights of Beijing? I said, no. I want to be with the devotees. Well, while you're here, why don't you come? No. They kept asking 5 times, so I got the idea. It wouldn't be nice, wouldn't be appreciated unless I said yes. I said, okay. So we're in the car and I said, where'd you like to go? I said, I don't know, what are my choices? Well, here's one. You could go to the Ming Dynasty, museum. Or you can go to the Temple of Heaven. I said, that sounds interesting. Let's go to Temple of Heaven. So we went to Temple of Heaven. And I wasn't born in New York City, but after I became a devotee, that was temple number 2 so I spent many, many years as a devotee in New York City, and I'm used to seeing lots of people and lots of pedestrians, because New York City is a pedestrian city. But Beijing is like 10 times New York City. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So we went to this park that's about the size of Central Park in Manhattan, but you have to pay to get in. And we went inside, and it was like New York City at rush hour, heading for the subway. And so we went inside, and you have to walk about, 3 football fields before you get to the first thing. The first thing is this kind of a mound. That's the main attraction. It's the Temple of Heaven. You have to walk up a flight of steps. You go inside, and it's demigod worship. So over there is this thing about the Ming Dynasty, and then over here is you have to stand in line because there's so many people, and then you move along. It's like darshan of Balaji or something, and you only have a few moments, and you see demigod worship, because there's this big arena, and in the back is the King of Heaven, and over here is the god of the moon, the god of the sun, the god of the wind, the god of this and the god of that, and Om Jai Jagadisha Hare. That's the Ming Dynasty, and they ruled for big periods of time. And then over there is the Upadevas. Then you go down the flight of stairs and down the next, over a bridge and through the 15 million people, and up the next one is Chinese cosmology, and it's the same as Vedic cosmology. Then you go to the next one, it's where they would talk to the King of Heaven. The emperor would go to this fasting place over there somewhere, and then at the end of fasting, he would come and stand, because it's all this numerology thing with squares of marble, and he'd stand in the middle and talk to the King of Heaven. And it was, a powerful place. Just standing there. It was less popular than the King of Heaven place, but the Ming Dynasty, they were worshipping the demigods and following Vedic cosmology and Vedic astrology and talking to the King of Heaven, or presumably. And it's one of the showcases of the nation's capital. Is our history was we were followers of Vedic. They don't say followers of Vedic culture. There's India-China tension, right? So they don't talk like that. But they were followers of Vedic culture. Ming Dynasty. In fact, Sadhaputta wrote a book. Sadhaputta, as a disciple of Prabhupada, was given an assignment long ago to study Srimad Bhagavatam and make a plan for a Vedic planetarium in Mayapur. So out of the course of 15 years of study, one of his books was Vedic Cosmology and Cosmography, and one of the things that he discovered is all around the world, from Siberia to Africa to South America to Sweden and, you name it. The American Indians, there are elements of cosmology that are identical or near identical. So scholars that know about this, they say there's three possibilities. One, we're just genetically wired to have cosmology that looks like that. They said that's not so realistic. Two, it's just an accident. Not so likely. Three, there was once a culture that covered the world. And they're not so favorable to that one, but it's less easy to rule that one out than the first two. There was a culture that ruled the world. No. Deviated and less than pure and all those things, because particularly as it becomes Kali Yuga, it becomes like that. But there was a culture, worldwide culture, Vedic culture. So when it says there's, Ambarish Maharaj ruled the world, he ruled the world. Now how did he do that? I don't know. But the influence was everywhere. The emperor amongst kings. And then, the ruler of the emperor amongst kings is Supreme Lord. Lord Vishnu, Lord Narayan, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead. Vedic culture went everywhere. And as well, the Devatas, the knowledge of the Vedas. Kali Yuga has deteriorated things, but it existed. And it remains, especially for those that don't have these authoritative sources to hear from, disciplic succession to hear from, it remains a mystery. Everything. And when there's good fortune, we can hear from authoritative sources, and it becomes, at least as purification takes place, it becomes clearer and clearer and clearer. So, any discussion? Pastimes of Lord Ramachandra. This is just a warm-up for Sunday. We'll speak again tomorrow on pastimes. Yeah?
Thank you, Maharaj. My question is, why is the curse always an explanation of some mystery? Because it is the non-devotees easily get turned away and then question the authenticity of the scriptures, and so it is they even say Lord Ram is not Lord because of all these
Details.
So it is as a devotee, I believe in Lord, but it is very difficult for me to explain this to other person. The curses as the reason for example, Sita Mataji's walk into Agni, right? From you were telling about the Adyaksha Ramayana.
Yeah.
Ramayana. So
Adhyatma.
yeah, Adhyatma Ramayana. So why and the parrot's curse? So why is always a curse that comes as a reason for these mysteries?
I'm sharing this with a particular audience. You're devotees. I wouldn't share this with non-devotees. Non-devotees are not going to take the time to read Panda Purana and find faults.
There are some people who take verses out of context.
Of course.
And then
Okay, now that's another thing. Verses out of context is another thing. But, you throw if I throw 5 balls at you at once and say, please catch them, what are you going to do? Maybe you'll catch one, but you're not going to. So let's do one at a time. So verses out of context is something other than having faith in something that is very difficult to understand. Therefore, we begin with Bhagavad Gita. Or we may even begin with some simpler literature, some introductory literature that speaks about values and how to live one's life according to values. But then it's important, depending upon the persons you're speaking to connect those values with the Supreme. And so you begin with a person you're speaking to according to their capacity to receive. Now, the out-of-context person depends on the person, but you can, express any number of things. One of them being, this is out of context. Here's the bigger picture. It can happen in any tradition, not just the Vedic tradition. Christ distributed fish at the Sea of Galilee. Therefore, open the slaughterhouses. What? So then one can speak reason to such a person. In a place where it's desert and that's the only source of food, that's one thing. But my dear friend, you're in America. You're not in a desert where there's only one source of food. And my dear friend, historians say, and you can refer to the historians that were contemporaries with Christ. He was vegetarian. My dear friend, Christ said, thou shalt not kill. And so forth. So you can speak reason with somebody just on a principle, a value to live by. The out of context person. So you can speak reason as opposed to, look, you've got this and I've got that and we can just disagree. But what's the intention behind the instruction? What is the, is it a better way to live? This is reason. Is it a better way to live if my life is causing less suffering for others than if I'm causing greater suffering for others? Which is a better principle to live by? So, let's speak reason. That's one response to people that are the out-of-context quoters. You've got your reference or a stack of references, I've got mine. Now it's a stalemate. So we can just agree to disagree. That's one thing we can do. But what's the intention behind? So it depends on the person. And minimally, you should be conversant in what the Scripture says. So if you have the big picture, I use that, then you'll have conviction in your heart. Not just, uninformed, but scripturally based, informed understanding of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His loving nature. So even if you see something that appears to be a discrepancy and someone out of context reads it as a discrepancy, in your heart of hearts you know. And so you may not be able to answer their out of context question or their doubting question, but your heart doesn't move. And then you can research it and become again familiar with the bigger picture and go back to that person and say, it's very similar. This answer is very similar to what Lord Chaitanya said to Ramdas Vipra. He was a very, here's this nice story, very advanced devotee. Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India. He was invited by the Brahmana to come to his home for his meal. So Lord Chaitanya said, I'll take my midday bath and then I'll come. So he came, and the man was just sitting there. And Lord Chaitanya said, my dear sir, what is your intention? He said, I'm waiting for Lakshman to come back from the forest with the edible so Sita can cook. And Lord Chaitanya could understand. This man, this is a sadhana. He's deep in meditation on the pastimes of Ram. Internally. He's not in illusion that it's just a meditation. So soon Lakshman will return and I'll have your meal ready. So he prepared the meal. And then towards the end of the meal, the man was in great distress. Like I mentioned, Sita has been kidnapped. I'm going to fast till death. So Ram spoke. My dear sir, reason. Sita is the goddess of fortune. Can the goddess of fortune be touched by the hand of a contaminated materialistic person like Ravana? It's not possible. In principle, it's not possible. It must be. It was this Maya Sita that was taken by Ravana. My dear sir, don't be disturbed. Break your fast. Trust my words. So he trusted Lord Chaitanya and he accepted. Then he found the book and he brought a copy of the book back. A long distance, from Rameshwaram to where this person, it was north of Hyderabad. It was a long distance where he went, and he came all the way back just to pacify the heart. This man's, he would, other than when he was speaking, he was just chanting Ram's name constantly. When he came back, he was chanting Krishna's name. And Ram said, what happened? Or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what happened? He said, just by your association, my devotion has moved to devotion for Krishna. I can't help myself but chant Krishna's name. So that's something, the purity, your purity can help persons who are in a confused space. You may not have answers to their questions, but your purity can help them move from a stuck place to an unstuck place. Just by even a little association, depending upon purity. That's the best thing. Become pure. Then you can be an instrument of Krishna to help persons who are confused in different ways. And become knowledgeable in what the scripture says and share it. Not like with a stick in your hand and say, you're wrong, this is what's right. But, with purity in the heart. That's compelling. Yes?
Guru Maharaj, when Maricha was killed by Ram,
yeah.
He cried Lakshman's name and Sita's name
Yes.
to comfort him.
Yes.
And Lakshman did not want to go, but Mother Sita speaks some very harsh words.
Very harsh.
I was reading that part of Ramayana. It was very disturbing. Every time I read that, it is like very disturbing. Such harsh words. Is there any explanation, anything behind it? How did Lakshmana take it after that? He explains that to Lord Ram, that this is what she told, that is why I am here.
Well, she threatened, I'll take my life. She was, in a... She's the daughter of King Janak. She knows how to move people. What an arrow to throw into the heart of Lakshman. All this time you've been waiting for the opportunity to be alone with me. I know you. Sita, how can you say that? And he could have just let it wash off him. But it struck him, because it was coming from Sita. And if you don't, I'll take my life. He couldn't bear it. Both. So your question specifically is, how did he take it?
How should I take it?
How should you take what?
It's painful to read that portion, so...
You take it as Leela. She should not have spoken that way. But she's Sita. So we can't fault Sita for speaking that way. It's a Leela. So that Lakshman would go, so that Ravana could come, so she could be taken, so that the whole destruction of the whole of Lanka could take place, and all of the other kings, all the other generals, and the will of the personality of Godhead, Lord Rama's appearance, could be fulfilled. Ravana and all of his associates be destroyed, and Vibhishan could be put in his place. It was just part of a Leela. It could have happened a million other different ways. And then your heart wouldn't have to be disturbed. But it's Leela in any case. It's just Leela. To assist the Lord in his pastimes. Yes?
When Mariji came and Sita asked to go and get that, Rama says no, it is like Maya. But why?
Lakshman said no. Lakshman said no.
Lakshman said.
Lakshman. So why, she demands to go and get it, instead of not leaving?
She pleaded. She didn't demand.
But Rama would have told, no, it is just Maya.
It's Leela. She's, she was attracted. She from these previous, she just loved being in the countryside and out of the countryside. Look at this outstanding, beautiful deer. Look at the movements of the deer. Look at the color of the deer. And some versions say changing of colors like a rainbow, changing colors and golden. Now it's this and now it's that. Oh, Ram.
Still,
Why did she insist, or why did Ram yield to her insistence? Which is your question?
my question, if Ram would have told, no, that is just Maya.
So it was Ram made the mistake.
You, Mr. Ready?
Should have put his foot down, right? And after all, he's omniscient, right? He knew. Not that he didn't know. He's omniscient. Why didn't he put his... Because he could have saved so much trouble for himself and for Sita. But, we heard. He wanted to show. Shukadeva Goswami said. Hanuman said. That's why. But still. Yes?
Maharaj, typically whenever we have heard about Ramayana and Rama's purpose, right, this is the first time at least I have come across the second reason. One was obviously to kill Ravana.
Yes.
The second one when you mentioned that to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around one's wife or the opposite sex is the cause of many miseries, right?
That's Hanuman, not me.
So, but usually when we talk
He was a
about...
brahmachari.
Good reason. But ideally when we look at Rama and his life, we are given examples of how Rama was very beautiful, right? Like he followed the dharma and he followed everything that
Yes.
needed to have been done.
Yes.
And that's the example we take. We don't take the example of, okay, he did all this and rather, if you're attached to your wife and your wife tells you to go get a deer or whatever it is, that leads to a whole bunch of miseries. It was more like he was a dutiful son and he was also a dutiful husband.
Of course.
So how do I understand when Hanuman says that this was the true second purpose? Not follow, not be dutiful.
Well, he can't do.
but
Why he
attach
can't do
them.
both?
So what is the middle path between attachment and duty then?
Ah, that's the right question.
Okay.
Ah. Our scriptures give answers. And it's a transcendental answer, meaning it's easier said than done. But the answer to your question is, the attachment goes to the personality of Godhead. So, what ideal, like Ahalya, or the ideal wife sees the husband in relation to their service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he's the source of all jivas. And this soul in the husband's male body, this soul in the female body, they're brought together under sacred marriage, blessed by the Supreme Lord and others. So now they have the opportunity to serve the Supreme Lord together. So if the Supreme Lord is at the center, then attachment goes to the Supreme Lord, and then descending wise, a service to the Supreme Lord, just like, say, children is a byproduct of mother, father, husband, wife. Now here, the Supreme Lord, Krishna, is giving us a soul to care for. It's his arrangement. It's his arrangement for we're together as husband, wife. It's his arrangement we have this soul as our child. We're serving the Supreme Lord together. That's what a family does. A transcendental family. Now the attachment question goes primarily to the Supreme Lord. But it's not just duty. There's affection. Not just duty. There's affection for the wife and the husband and the child. Otherwise, it's impersonal. This isn't impersonal. This is personal. So Queen Kunti, read carefully in Queen Kunti's prayers. Towards the end, I'll look up the number since you're writing it down, but 42, 43 or something like that. And Prabhupada explains the way to have a soul-to-soul relationship is with the Supreme Lord at the center. It's where Queen Kunti is praying to Krishna, please remove my attachment to the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. She's not saying, I want to be an impersonalist. Please remove the material portion of the attachment, and then it's soul to soul with Krishna at the center. She has her sons. Krishna's leaving. She knows her sons are going to be missing Krishna's association if he leaves. But meanwhile, her father's family, the Yadu dynasty, they're feeling separation from Krishna in Dwaraka. So when he returns to Dwaraka, they'll be happy while the Pandavas are unhappy. So if he stays, they'll be happy and they'll be unhappy. So she's torn between the two because of the natural affection, not duty, natural affection that exists. She's praying to Krishna, please remove the material portion of that affection, leaving soul to soul. Now, what does it look like? It's transcendental. So there's a natural affection, not making it zero, a natural affection. And how do you have affection on the platform of the soul? Well, the platform of the soul is to be delivered from the clutches of birth and death. So you have a husband or a wife, you have children, you have, just leave it at that, because extended family, but just that much. Husband, wife, and children. And we're together as a family. We're meant as a family to serve Krishna. We have feelings for one another. Natural feelings. They're not, it must be. To be healthy, it must be. Unhealthy is not good. Healthy, good. And let us work together, serve together, learn together how to be in this continuous mood of service. So the mother is doing what mothers do, and the father is doing what fathers do, and the children are doing what children do, and out of affection for one another, and together serving Krishna. That's wholesome. The key is Krishna's at the center. Then, because when you're in contact with the Supreme Pure, you become pure, purified. When you stand next to a fire, you get warm. So there's a warmth, a spiritual warmth in a family that puts Krishna at the center. And there's a natural affection for one another. What to speak of family, then, community. I'm a sannyasi, but I feel more affection for the devotee community than I do for my brothers and sisters. I didn't plan it that way. It's just because of affection for Krishna, and those that are feeling affection for Krishna, there's an attraction for those that have an affection for Krishna, more than for those that just our DNA is the same. My sister sent out a little thing. One of my sisters, three. So I don't know why, but she had a DNA thing, and said, our DNA is the same. Here's what it says. Here's what you got. Here's the which parts of Europe our ancestry came from just by looking at your DNA. My brother wrote, don't circulate this. I'm certainly not going to have a DNA test done. I'm not going to make it available publicly because I want my privacy. Thank you. But so there's a connection, not just as family members, but all this ancestry thing. I feel more identity with the devotee community, regardless of where the birth is from. So that's more of a soul-to-soul relation. But it's not like I don't care about my sister. I don't care about my brother, my sisters and my brother.
So the way I'm trying to understand this is there's nothing wrong in having, if I look at myself, my husband and my daughter.
It's natural.
It's natural to have that affection.
It must be there.
But if that affection or attachment comes in between of my
your consciousness of Krishna. So that's the measure, the test, the litmus test. Because we are meant for service together by divine arrangement. You may have said yes to your husband. You didn't choose your daughter. The soul was, sent. That's it. And some other arrangement, in husband and wife. There's some other arrangement going on. You might have said yes, but there was some arrangement going on. The bigger picture of arrangements. And we have, we're meant for serving, we're meant to learning about ourselves and about how to overcome our shortcomings and use our strengths in service to Krishna together. That's the family. And there's affection for one another. It's natural. Must be.
Thanks, Maharaj. Can I ask?
Let me come back.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So these transcendental personalities like Lord Rama, Mother Sita and Lakshman. So in this whole Ramayana, sometimes they are acting, it looks like they are acting from a material platform like lamentation or anger and then on the other side, many times they have manifested completely on a transcendental level, like Lord Ram getting angry at Sagara and Mother Sita entering into the fire and coming back. So what is their purpose to teach us?
Well, there's transcendental emotion. That's one of the very important lessons. There's material emotion and there's transcendental emotion. Everything exists in its pure form within Krishna. Whatever we find out here is a reflection, a perverted reflection of the spiritual. Anger has its place. Even for devotees, what to speak of the Supreme Lord. This is one of the teachings of Narottam Das Thakur, is Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moha, Mada, Matsarja, the 6 great gates to hell. All of those things have their pure state in Krishna and have their place for the devotee. Just anger in specific, he speaks of Hanuman. He was angry. Look what they've done. When he saw Sita's condition, he was angry. Not self, but, angry. I'll show them a lesson. He burnt Lanka. But he was also in a mood of doing that, in a mood of service to the Supreme Lord Ram, and doing his intelligence, cognizance, getting to see all the places of Lanka. So when he went back and they had their battle, he would know where everything was and could lay it out. It was service. His anger was in service and not otherwise. Immediately, as soon as the service was over, he was no longer angry. That's a test. Transcendental anger, you may use it in Krishna's service and then it's gone because it's no longer needed for service. That's one of the things in pastimes. Like, this strong language spoken back and forth between Ram and Ravana. Whoa! Strong. Sita speaking the word that she spoke to Ravana. Whoa! Strong.
So is it to assist in the pastime?
Yeah. Well, but please capture. There's transcendental emotion that may, to us that are not pure, look like, hey, that looks like the material world kind of emotion. I mean, then Hanuman was clearing that up about, it's not possible for Ram to, there was a transcendental emotion. He's Swarat. He's self-sufficient. He doesn't need anything outside of himself. How can he be lamenting? It's a transcendental emotion. Worldly, it looked like a doting man. It's a transcendental emotion. And Lakshman trying to pacify Ram in different ways, because that's Lakshman, the servant of Ram. He has his affection, and it's a transcendental affection. It's not worldly. Yes. Last question we're going to end. Oh, wait a minute. Second to last question. You go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I have a question around this Sita versus Maya Sita. I want to say my understanding and then put the question.
All right.
By bringing the context of Maya Sita, we have been saying that it is Maya Sita who has suffered, not real Sita, but suffering is suffering. Does it make any difference whether it is the suffering of real Sita or Maya Sita?
Yes.
How?
Because, well, depends if you're Valmiki or if you're Vyasadeva. From Valmiki's perspective, there was no Maya Sita. From the other Ramayana perspective, it was a Maya Sita. These 3 mentioned, and I don't know how many others. So the difference is, how can the internal potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead be put into difficulty? Unless the place where we go is, there's no difficulty, it's just apparent difficulty. It's a pastime to teach us something. don't mess with Sita. Like Draupadi, aside from Sita. She was a pure soul, and very powerful lady too. But look what happened. But, because she fully depended upon Krishna, Krishna protected her. And Sita was also ultimately protected, but put into difficulty and great distress. So, there's different lessons. One of the lessons is, don't leave women unprotected, as in the case of Draupadi. That's something that Prabhupada comments in the Bhagavatam, that Krishna wanted to show, even your grandfather Bhishma, if you don't protect women, you're finished. It's a principle that's not, you don't make exceptions to. So, there's a lesson. And she was instrumental to a lesson. That's the Valmiki Ramayana message. And then the other, so your question is, does it make a difference? After all, suffering is suffering. That was your question.
At the personal level, from the teaching's point of view, I understood, but as a personal, Sita and Maya Sita, as a person.
Well, okay, as a question, I'll give an answer of secondary rasas. You ready? You know what rasa is? There's principal rasas. 5, neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental, and conjugal rasa. There's, according to Rupa Goswami, 7 secondary rasas. One of those 7 secondary rasas is sorrow. Chivalry, dread, etc. So those secondary rasas they seem to eclipse and cover the primary rasa, but the primary rasa isn't. It's always there. Just like it spikes and becomes overwhelming for some period of time and then subsides. And that secondary rasa is meant to enhance and strengthen the primary rasa. So never did Sita waver from her faithfulness to Ram, even in the greatest of difficulty, greatest unimaginable difficulty, or the Pandavas, or anything. Completely fixed upon the personality of Godhead. Then the secondary rasa came along, so that's Yogamaya, or the internal potency of the Lord, or the goddess of fortune. She can experience this rasa, and then it's different than the Maya Sita. Now, if it's Maya Sita, then she's just the shadow serving the one that she's the shadow of. Different. But secondary rasa helps to understand some of these emotional situations, lila situations in Ramayana. And I think what I'm going to do, because I just looked at my watch, 9:35. Fortunately, it's Friday night. We don't have to go to work or school tomorrow. But I think we should end. Yeah. Now, before we disappear and go take prasad or whatever else you're going to do, I brought with me, and our hostess, I think once, one of these, some flash drives that have videos of visits to yatras, to Dwarka last year, and 2016, and then Ayodhya, Chitrakoot, and where else did we go? Naimisharanya. So, as a service, one of the things I like to do is take devotees to holy places in India, and we just, in those places, hear the pastimes of the Lord in those places. But then some people can't come, and so it's recorded. And one devotee from Hyderabad has dedicated himself, a young man. He takes off 2 weeks of work and just stands there with his camera and takes videos of everything and still pictures of the places we visit. So he's recorded all of this, and I now have it on a flash drive. So I'd like to offer it to those of you that weren't able to attend. And at the same time, there's some service that I do for ISKCON that requires funding that I don't have sufficient funds for. So the requesting a donation, if you'd like, 1 or 2. And the flash drive itself costs around $10, and the production cost is around $10, $10. So that each one is a cost of $20, and I'm requesting a donation of $50 for this one or $50 for that one, so that I can give you something, an experience of the Holy Dham and the pastimes of the Lord. There's the Katha, there's Kirtan, one of the devotees that conducts 24-hour Kirtan in Vrindavan for about 10-12 years, is the Kirtan singer, very nice singer. And then photos of the places, this high-resolution camera that he has. So those that are interested, come forward afterwards and I'll give you 1 or